This tutorial will walk you guys through how to properly do transactions on MMOExchange.net. Introduce you to how to use the trader system. The trader system is basically designed to protect both the buyer and the seller as much as possible by forcing both the buyer and the seller to both commit to the sale, and therefore holding them both accountable for participating in the sale together. This is really important because it allows us as the staff to have a record of both of you committing to do the transaction together. And in case of a scam, the staff will be able to easily determine that the offender did indeed commit to do the transaction with the other party, and they're not just trying to say that the other party's filing a dispute against them falsely. We'll have a record that that person did indeed really want to participate in the sale. So this portion of the tutorial will demonstrate the process of completing the transaction as the buyer from beginning to end. And you can pretty much figure out, the other end is the seller, since it's pretty similar. So first step as a buyer would be, to locate a seller of interest. We have the marketplace here. So we're going to navigate to gold sales. And all the sales will be here. So you locate a seller of interest, and usually by this time you've already talked to the seller through either through the topic or through a private message or instant messenger, and you'll both agree to do the sale together. So once this agreement's made, you as the buyer will initiate the transaction via the trader system with the seller. The buyer always initiates the transaction with the seller. The seller never initiates a transaction with the buyer. So to initiate this transaction, you'll navigate back to the sale topic in the marketplace, which we're in now. You'll locate the initiate transaction link, which you see here, which is located below the seller's username in the sale topic. In the other case, if you met the seller through a request topic, not a topic that the seller made of his own, you made your own topic in the request board, you'll need to make sure that the seller posts in your request topic so that you can initiate the transaction with that seller there. It's very important that the transaction be initiated through the related topic, as this is what the trader system links back to through your feedback and transaction. So once you locate the seller, the seller in this particular topic that you want to buy from, you'll find the initiate transaction link here. So once you click the initiate transaction link, which we'll go ahead and do, this nice pop-up will come up. The trader system, as you can see here, will automatically warn us if it thinks that this seller could potentially be of high risk. So it'll tell us to proceed with caution. So we need to make sure that we really trust this seller and that we have a lot of information from them. So we'll go ahead and accept the warning and continue our transaction with this particular seller. So we're looking in the screen here. This is the initiate transaction screen. So we'll go ahead and review the important notices and all information that are displayed here to us. And we'll also go ahead and review the information about this particular transaction, which lists the topic, the seller, and relative information. So once we review this information and all looks good, we'll go ahead and type in the CAPTCHA verification code here. And once we type in the CAPTCHA code, we'll go ahead and click the confirmation button at the bottom to go ahead and initiate the transaction. So now we've successfully initiated the transaction as the buyer with the seller. So at this point, we can go to our pending transactions by clicking this link, or we can go up to our buyer transactions pending, and it'll show us all the current transactions in the system that we've initiated with sellers and are waiting them to confirm them. So once we initiate a transaction with a seller, the seller will now have to confirm it, because the seller also has to say, hey, I'm going to participate in this transaction with this buyer. So the buyer initiates the transaction, and then the seller will confirm the transaction, which starts the whole process. So while you're waiting for the seller to confirm the transaction, they'll all show up under this pending section here. So as you can see, the one we just did went away, and that's because the buyer here just accepted, confirmed our transaction. So every time the seller confirms a transaction, you'll get a notification via a private message on the website. So we can go here, we can see, our particular private message that we just had. The notification system lets me know that, hey, the seller's confirmed my transaction, and we can verify this by going back to the trader system. We see the trader system here, and now that the seller has confirmed it, we'll see it under the need feedback listing. So now both the buyer and the seller have confirmed have initiated and confirmed the transaction. So it's very, very important that the actual deal, whether it's selling gold or whatever, or buying accounts, whatever the actual deal is, doesn't occur until the buyer has initiated the transaction with the seller and the seller has confirmed the transaction. You should not be doing the deal until both of those actions have been done. And once both of those actions have been done, it'll show up under the need feedback listing. So this confirms that the seller has confirmed our transaction, and it's now safe to go ahead and proceed with the deal. It's not until the seller confirms the transaction that the staff has record of both of you agreeing to do this deal. That's why it's so important. So once the deal has been completed, once we do our deal, whatever it is, in this case I'm buying some gold from this particular seller. So now we can go ahead and do that. I can buy the gold from the seller. So once I've bought the gold from the seller, we can come back here to our need feedback section, which we're currently in, and we can leave feedback for this particular seller. Let everyone else know how this particular transaction went. So to leave feedback, we'll hover over this icon here, click it, and you see the feedback input section becomes available here. So we'll go ahead and give this particular seller a rating. We'll also type in a comment. And once we type in our comment, we'll go ahead and submit our feedback for this particular seller. So we'll submit our feedback. It tells us success. Great. So at this point, as the buyer, we have now completed our transaction. So now our transaction went from pending, and then once it was confirmed, it went to need feedback, and then once we left feedback, now it's fallen under completed. So now this particular seller, we've left feedback for. So now that when the seller finally ends up leaving us feedback, you'll see we get a notification again as well in our private messages that says, hey, this notification has let you know that this seller has now left you feedback. And we can confirm this feedback that we received from the seller by going back to the trader system, which pops up, and go to our feedback profile. So now we can see under our feedback profile, which is basically pretty much a complete history of our transactions and dealings with other users on the forums, which is publicly viewable by other members of the forums. So we can see our the seller left us feedback here. Told us good job. So by following this new simple method of completing transactions and using our trader system on MMOExchange.net, you can greatly reduce your risk of being scammed. and that's the whole purpose of why we created this. So it really needs to be used, and we think it'll really help you guys. And so we hope you enjoy our services, and happy trading.